Alrighty, we are back yet again with another horror review, and this is highly appropriate considering that we have a new Scream entry coming up next month. So we got preppy for that. But of course, the good thing about this is that it's not near as dense of a franchise as the rest of them. There's only 4 movies right now, so it should be pretty straightforward. So we did, of course, go through all the other major ones: Halloween, Friday 13th, Elm Street, and all that stuff. Even Child's Play and watching that whole series there. But of course, this is Wes Craven's work following A Nightmare on Elm Street, because the one previous to that was New Nightmare from '94. That was the one where it got into like this more where it's like meta type of vibe, which is very much
Yeah, okay.
yeah, yeah.
That's why watching Scream all of a
Mm-hmm.
sudden now was like,
Yeah.
oh, okay. That
Yeah,
makes
yeah,
sense.
which wasn't fully appreciated at the time. I felt like that one definitely got more appreciation as time went on. I personally really enjoy that one, quite a bit, and it seems like more I watch it, the more I do, because Heather Langenkamp, she kind of like carries that movie. She's like in it, just like in pretty much in every scene. She's like the sole character that's constantly in it, and she really helps carry that film. You really saw her growth in that, and I feel like that makes for a nice trilogy of like one, three, and New Nightmare as its own. Because those three I think are definitely the best and kind of work as their own trilogy. Because technically it's tied to it, but not really. And that was very much like a precursor to what Scream is now. This was very much a reinvention of the horror genre, because by that point, of course, it was like not really the way it was with all those older franchises coming to an end, because even what the year before that, that was Curse of Michael Myers, so that didn't go so well, and even Jason Goes to Hell '93. So that was very much the end, and so this very much breathed new life into the whole genre by having a world where all those horror films exist. And so therefore, you have these killers kind of replicating things from those movies and referencing that.
Hmm.
And so it really just like took it by storm and changed everything. And so you said you had seen it once years prior, but don't
Maybe,
really remember
maybe,
anything from it.
yeah, I couldn't remember what had happened. I mean, I
Mm,
knew of it, and because
yep.
it was a newer, more, God, even thinking about it, just,
Yeah, 25 years just
yeah.
recently. Just
Um,
recently. Yep.
it wasn't like obviously 1983 or whatever. So I obviously grew up with it and knowing the movies and whatnot. But this one I knew I had seen at least one time, or at least parts of it. But yeah.
Yeah, I kind of grew up with these ones myself. More so, like, I think the first two. I don't think I saw the third one until perhaps a little bit later, and all that. But like I said, I remember like being a kid, because I remember my mom worked in the theater that's over there now when it was different. I remember being like a little kid. Like I said, I remember walking into the theater room and then like looking up at the screen like towards the end sequence and stuff. Like I went in there like twice, saw the bit part like right there before they shot him at the end and stuff like that. So I remember like visually, like that's always stuck with me for some reason. Like I just remember that distinctly, just going there and seeing just a brief moment of the film on screen way back then. And so yeah, that's always an
Yeah,
interesting.
you were little.
I was very little, yes. But yeah, so just jumping right on into it, how did you feel walking away from it after all this time?
Well, I honestly, well, like Child's Play, I wasn't into it. I mean, it's still really not. I mean, maybe my opinion will change after seeing the next couple. I don't know. Because while Child's Play definitely isn't my favorite, I mean, Chucky, especially in the
But I
TV
definitely I
series, was
definitely pushed you more
badass.
into more of a fan. Like, and I feel like if all of them, like
Of
if you were
Chucky,
adamant about like watching any of them and then getting into it, it would have been that one. Because you
the
would definitely
TV series was
you would
definitely awesome.
yeah, I mean, you like I said, you were adamant about like getting into it, be like, I wasn't sure, but I
Well,
think I even turned you around on that one, at least a wee
well,
bit.
I don't know if we touched on the TV series, so we may need to discuss that, but I'll leave that for a separate time.
Mm-mm.
But
But this one is
um,
more, it's more easy to grasp onto, more,
well,
if
obviously,
anything.
but I I just remember like David Arquette was there, and then seeing that one other show on TV where he was on it and they're talking about it, and you can't kill
Oh yeah.
him, and it was funny as hell. But anyway, it's your typical high school teenager like slasher movie, like always.
Well, I mean, even this one kind of set like a new wave of those to come. Like, because like, I Know What You Did Last Summer came out the following year. So this kind of started a whole new string of like the 90s era high
Yeah,
school kid
I know.
slasher
I'm saying
thing.
at
So,
least at base level,
yeah.
it's
hmm
it's the same kind of concept. Um,
But of course, kind of playing on those tropes, though. Like, they're
yeah,
constantly referencing, like,
yeah,
oh, yeah, if you're the virgin of these things, you die. And then, and kind of
yeah,
breaking the mold with a character like Sydney, where, she does sleep with them by the end of it. But then, like I said, it just kind of, it plays on those tropes, but at the same time, it kind of breaks the mold of those tropes in a lot of ways, with
yeah,
its self-awareness and all that stuff.
yeah.
So, yeah, so character-wise, did you enjoy these characters at all? Like, are there any ones that you liked more than the others, or?
Um, I I don't know for sure because I mean, having seen it before, and I was just like meh to it. Um, I I'm not really a Courtney Cox fan. And I'm not saying I hate her or anything. I was just like, I never really got into it. Never got into that TV show. Um,
Friends.
yes,
Yes.
I know. Um, but well, oh shoot, I can't remember the character name, and I can't remember his name.
Jamie Kennedy,
No, well,
Randy,
I mean,
Randy,
obviously I knew
or
Jamie Kennedy, and that was funny, and his character,
mm-hmm.
because we watched his show.
Yeah, I took you
Um,
through. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
but the friend that helped the killer.
Oh, Matthew Lillard, Stu.
Yes,
Yeah.
okay, thank you, because
Yeah.
I liked him in 13 Ghosts.
Yeah, I mean Matthew
Um,
Lillard is
and
definitely,
other movies that
yeah,
I've
yeah,
seen.
solid actor. He's
But
done plenty of things, but yeah, for like a character like
Jamie
him
Kennedy and
and Jamie
him.
Kennedy are two particular standouts from this movie. Like Randy, especially, is a fan favorite because he's kind of like the movie fan that we all are, and
Oh yeah.
like he gets on the best dialogue and stuff because of the monologuing and explain like the video store scene, one of the best scenes in the movie, and just in general, it's just because
And then when they're watching the
just
movie
breaking it down where
later.
he pretty much like spells it out, be like yeah, Billy's the killer, like this is how it goes and blah blah blah, where and that's what I feel like works with this movie is that like at first, like, yeah, you as a fan, like anyone watching this for the first time, I mean, yeah, you would look to Billy and be like, if anyone's the killer, that guy. But that's the thing, is that they make it to where he seems like the obvious choice, but then they play with your expectations throughout, thinking like, maybe it is, maybe it isn't, and then they do certain
Yeah.
things to where they constantly like bring you back in, and then like, all throughout the movie, and even up till that point where he literally spells it out, and to where it's just like, well, it seems so obvious that he's the killer, but he could be, but could be not. And then it's just like, and then you get to the end, and you reveal it's like, oh, even a second kill on top of that. So it leaves it in. It's hard to really say, but it leaves you in like expecting such a thing, but to where even by the end, where you may not seem surprised, but at the same time you do seem surprised because of how
Yeah.
they just play their hand as far as like who's the killer, and just how they play it. They just perfect it in such a way. It's hard to really explain, but it really like has you going with it to where it's just like you're still kind of shocked by the end and still like running within where everything just kind of adds up. It's just like, you know what? That's pretty awesome,
Well,
and it works
yeah,
for
I
me.
was saying I couldn't remember what had happened, so I'm like, okay, then let's watch it. Because
hmm
like the Saw movies, I don't know that I can really rewatch them and have that same feeling because I know what happens. So,
Well, I mean, Screams,
but
I feel like
anyway,
is a little bit different. Like Saw, I can kind of
yeah.
understand because it has such an episodic way about it, and it plays more into like a twist,
Well,
more
yeah,
than
I
most
know
things.
what happens to the
Scream
people and everything.
is more of a certain fun factor.
Yeah.
I just Like honestly, the series itself is really not the scariest series by any means. I would say,
No,
like not even
it's
this one.
just a
I
suspense
honestly,
thriller slasher.
yeah,
Yeah.
and they definitely play in the more comedic stuff into the other films, but at the same time, they keep themselves grounded enough as well for the most part. I would say to where it's like I would say it's the peak of the series as far as like the scariest. Like the next one, I know they're gonna actually kind of try to find a nice balance and kind of go back to more of like the roots of what the first one was, but we'll get into that later.
Hmm.
To where the first scene though, the whole opening in of itself, I would say is as scary as the series gets. And I would say that pretty much is like the perfect suspense builder for, you know, what the whole rest of the film is. I mean, because Drew Barrymore, you kill her off, and that was the thing is that she was actually, I think, kind of set to play Sydney, but even she herself was like, you know what? It's like I should play the opening character to be killed because that would kind of play with the expectations. Because everyone thought like going into it, it's like, oh, Drew Barrymore's the star. She's even on the poster and stuff. And it's just like, and then you kill her off right there at the beginning. You're like, oh shit, and that was kind of set to play with the audience's expectations and all of that. So, and I would say, like I said, that whole opening scene is pretty much like perfection as far as all of that
Yeah.
goes.
uh,
And
for what he did to her and the way it looked, and it was, yeah, like it was super
yeah, the last
gross and
shot of
like,
her hanging from the
why?
tree is like is pretty intense looking, and even like the voice on the phone. Roger Jackson, he actually does the Ghostface voice throughout the entire
Okay, okay.
franchise, and then people love him for that because, like, say, yeah, he gives the identity to Ghostface, and that's what makes it very fascinating. Is that because even though with each film it's like different people killing, or maybe they are the same people, maybe they're not, but like it kind of gives the Ghostface character his own identity, even though despite being different people under the mask. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And so like it's so he has that kind of identity as like a Michael or a Jason to some extent, which like I said, the voice of Roger Jackson, he sells it. And the opening scene, like I said, is the best, like as far as like the creepiness of it as
And
it
it's
gets.
funny
It's
thinking about it because it's an iconic mask. Obviously, it's an
yep.
iconic mask,
Hmm.
and it's the only one that actually talks.
That's true. Yes, yes. As far as like the white face mask killer, yeah, yeah, it's the only one that really.
Because Jason and Michael, obviously they didn't speak, and that's kind of what I liked about them. And
No.
I'm not saying it's bad with this, but I just thought that I'm like, oh well, you know what, of these like slashers, this guy.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, like, and even Kevin Williamson, writer, who deserves like even as much credit as like Wes Craven's stuff for like for making this movie what it is. It's like it was really like again a nice like perfect amalgamation of like just story and ideas, and like because
Mm-hmm.
even originally the whole cloak was meant to be like all white and stuff like that, and the mask itself is based off an actual mask that existed, and that they found it, and it's like a whole thing about them, getting the rights to the mask itself, and even the designs kind of just very slightly changed, like as far as just the general shape over time. But like there was like a whole thing as far as like how that was integrated into the film, and and the
Right.
legal stuff with that, and like I said, it's just a nice way for things to come together for this film. Uh, as far as kills and all that stuff, it's pretty straightforward, not a whole lot of crazy standout stuff in necessarily, except for the garage kill, which is a pretty
Yeah.
intense one for
Yeah.
Rose
It beat me
McGowan.
to
It's
it.
just like, even though many would say it's just like, well, the garage door would clearly not drag her up all the way,
No,
but
it
for
wouldn't.
film's sake, it's like it works and it's effective, and it's like, yeah, that's pretty messed up if you have.
Yeah, I mean, if you just suspend your beliefs of
Hmm.
how those work, and the chain would not hold. I've installed those before. It just would not work. That poor thing would not work. But well, it did this time. This one time.
Yeah,
So
it was very. It had like a high endurance level. Like they had some really good quality
that was
garage
a
door.
good motor and good chain that could support her weight. Not that she was, terribly large sort of person, but
No.
Yeah, anyway,
So as far as the
that
main,
was pretty nasty, aside from the opening
yeah. So
kill.
as far as the main character, Nev Campbell, Sydney Prescott, how did you feel about her character?
Well, I mean, she's a, a good person. You feel things for her. It's not just a cookie cutter character like like a camper in Friday the 13th. You don't really care about. It's like, oh, whatever, you're gonna die anyway.
Mm.
But you know, like when she finally has sex with her boyfriend, and that whole revelation happens not long after. It's like, well, shit, you feel bad that she did that, and well, he's such a dickhead. So, I mean, yeah, what are you gonna do? She was a pretty decent chick.
Hey, for playing like this, you have to be a master manipulator, especially when everyone's pointing the finger, being like, "Oh no, that dickhead definitely did it," but he's like, "No, I didn't do it," and all this other stuff. And like I said, just going into that whole finale, it just works. Like just them standing in the kitchen, them just all the dialogue to do, and Matthew Lillard just completely just
Yeah, he killed it.
playing, just playing,
Well,
yeah, yeah, just
almost
play.
literally, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, many people say, because
I'm getting kind
obviously,
of woozy.
yeah, and a lot of the stuff, I think even some of it was dialogue, well, some of it was like improv. Like I
Oh,
think
I
with,
wouldn't doubt it.
I can't remember which lines maybe in particular. Like I think like the hit me with the phone, dick. Like I think that was probably improvised and just yeah, it's because it leaves you with so many different emotions going into it because you're watching these two and as theirs is just spewing like the whole plot and what their deal is and what they're doing, and you're watching them just knowing what they've done and all bloody and stuff. It's just like, man, these guys are so twisted but so believable though. That's the thing, is that they're so grounded in how they play into the psychology of these like crazed killers, but at the same time, you're just kind of like almost having like a slight laugh, but almost like, oh, should I be laughing like with lines like that? You're like, because Stu is he's just so like out there with it, and it's like you clearly he's deranged, but at the same time, he's also just funny as hell. Like it's
Yeah.
just like a weird, bizarre mixed emotions of it, but it's very fun and it's very intense, and like how they play into Halloween playing in the background and stuff like that
Yeah,
at the end
that
when he's
I
going through the
I did
house and
find that funny
like
cuz
just again just playing into that
yeah.
whole meta and just movies within a movie, and it just all works very well. And I would say that Sidney Prescott is one of the better protagonists of any horror franchise. I mean, if you as you watch the series and go along with it, you'll see why and how she very much grows as a character and one of the stronger characters of any of these because like I said, her backstory and all that stuff with her mother and all of that
Yeah, I
going
was
in,
going to say
already going
that.
into this movie, that plays a huge part of it, and it's just you definitely see the evolution of all that in her
Mhm.
character, and it really becomes very fascinating and all that. So yeah, all in all, what would you say that you rate the film?
Uh well, based on what exactly? Cuz it's still not exactly like my favorite movie, but it wasn't
Maybe
a horrible movie. I've seen some really crappy movies.
just a general
So,
number, and
maybe like a 3.5, 4, something like that.
out of five.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, that's fair. Yeah, I
I
mean,
mean, it like I said, it kind of depends if I want to eliminate like my feelings out of it and just focus on that. But I'm like, okay, somewhere thereabouts.
all right, fair enough. I mean, may not be for everyone that much, but I mean, for me, it's just like, well, I mean, I'd rate it, like 4.5, maybe five, because it's just a good solid like slasher film. I mean, and it just flipped everything on its head as far as what the genre to be and all of that stuff, and it's just a good solid time. I mean, honestly,
Yeah, probably.
I would say
Yeah,
overall this is
like a 4.
this is the best of the series. Like I said, because I mean, some people like I said, it just depending on who you are may or may not care for the sequels as much. like I said, I feel like overall, like this is as good as it gets as far as just the general construction of a film. But I would say the next few are still very good and fun films, though. Overall, you see what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So
no, I understand that
yeah.
because given what I know about the
Mhm.
other franchises, and you're like, yeah, this one is a. Ugh.
Yeah, I mean, for me
So,
personally, that I mean, like I say, like we only have the four to go off of. I don't think there's truly a bad one. Like they're all like consistent and solid
well, yeah,
films,
that
and like
that's
I said, it's a
what
more,
matters.
yeah, just more kind of like just obviously tighter story, not a whole lot of craziness. We're
Yeah.
not dealing with resurrections and like demon slugs and all this cults. None of that craziness.
Hmm.
Not necessarily. I mean, but
Yeah,
it's just
that.
like it's just very straightforward and all of that stuff. But
Oh, you forgot dolls having sex and creating a doll. That was probably of all the movies, like right up there with Jason Goes to Hell.
that's a
That is
whole other
some.
story.
It's that movie was so tough to get through, but
I
I
mean,
did it.
well, to be fair, you are even for the most hardcore fans, you are not alone in that. So it's funny, like I said, it's just funny to think that even right off the bat, you're just like, oh, fuck, no, I'm not touching that one again.
No,
So yeah, I mean,
no. I
yeah.
think that's the only one I ever had that reaction to. I'm like, no, I would even watch Jason Goes to Hell again over that.
Mm. Oh,
Mm-mm.
well, you heard it here, not necessarily first, but you even for someone who like I said who wasn't invested in any of this shit up until I got her into it. You heard it here though for sure, so we know. So that would.
Jason Goes to Hell is definitely above that movie. Yes.
I would say that's fair.
Manhattan.
That's fair. Yeah.
Yeah.
Even that one just barely, because I just
I
think
have
again,
fun
I
with
just think
that one more
I know, but I
than
know,
that
but
damn Chucky
the
movie.
biggest thing I could give to anything, like you could be stupid as hell if I can laugh at you, that's fine. But if you're boring though, that's more of an ultimate sin than anything, if you ask
Yeah.
me. If you're just batshit insane, if I can just look at it and just be like, it sucks so bad, but it's so batshit to where I'm like, I have to give it some merit. But
Yeah.
yeah, but that's what it is. Anyway, yeah, that'll do it for our review of Scream. We will be on to Scream 2 next, and we will see what happens there. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.